Hi, and welcome to this video on FlowFields, BC Superpower. Hey, I'm Eric, and in this video we're going to talk about FlowFields. What are FlowFields? FlowFields are a way for BC to calculate something. So a field that's virtual. It's not really in the database, but it's kind of in the database because we see it as a field. FlowFields are pretty cool. So let me show you. Here's the chart of accounts from Cronus, and you can see I have a net change here, and the net change is a flow field. And the first thing we'll see is that a flow field the values in flow field becomes links. So when we click on the link, we suddenly get all the entries that makes up this flow field. Pretty cool. But if we apply a filter to this one, so I'll go. So we have two types of filter. We can filter the list, meaning we can filter what rows we want to see, but we can also filter totals. And in this case, when you filter a total, you actually filter the content of the flow field, meaning how many entries behind the field is going to make up. So if I do something like let's do August 24th. I think that was when I created the video on some of the point of sale stuff. So I think there's a bunch of transactions just on 24th. Oops, that was stupid. Date filter 8/24. Oh, you see that the instant I changed the date, I got a new value. So it was calculated like that. And if I click on this, we'll see that the only transaction I get is all the transactions that happened on that day. So apparently I scanned a lot of copies of my book. So that's one usage of a flow field. So you can use it to calculate. And Business Central has some pretty nifty technology called the sum index field technology behind the scene, and that will make it so that it doesn't matter how many transactions we have here. It will always take approximately the same time, meaning almost instant to calculate it. So it's a very, very good way to show a balance, a total, something like that in the UI, because it's very responsive, and you don't end up in having to maintain two things that need to be the same. So you have a balance field sitting somewhere and some entries the same way. So if you do something with the entries, you have to make sure that you update the balance. This way, everything always is in order. So let's hop into Visual Studio Code and see how to actually create a sum field. So what I have created here, let me actually run it. I have one table, simple table. It has one field, customer number, and I just before the video, I went in and added 4 lines. So we have now 4 records, each referencing a customer number. Great. So the first flow field I'm gonna add to this table is actually not a calculation, but it's let's say that we really want to show the name of this guy. So I'll just do text. Doesn't really matter at this point the size of it. And then I'm going to tell that the field class for this field is not a normal field. This is a flow field. And the flow field needs what is known as the calc formula. And this is one where when you look at the help stuff here, you kind of get confused. I did when I saw this first time. I said, what? In Seaside we had a nice dialogue, and now we have this. But let's decode this together. What we can see is that, see if I can keep this on, that there's some exist count, there's there's certainly some functions that we start with. So let's start with the one, because now I want to get the name of this customer. I don't really want to have a customer name field in this table also. I just want to show the name of the customer. So I can do that by creating a lookup. And then I add a parenthesis, because that's how it goes. And then I need to tell what table am I looking up into. And I'm looking up into customer dot what field do I want to get. In this case, I want to get the name. So far so good. Look up customer name. But the amazing thing is that this actually compiles. And let's run and see how badly I have broken the system. I don't think I was supposed to compile, but okay, so here's the next thing. Of course, this doesn't work because I forgot to add the field to my page. So let me do that. So let me do that and let's see what happens here. So I like the name, but clearly this is not the right name for all these customers. So something is wrong here. Let's just for a brief moment take a look at the customer table. And I think this looks ugly, but you can see the number 1000 is actually my name. So for each of these, I just got the first customer. Okay, so we can work with that. What we need to do is go back to the calc formula, and then we're gonna add a where clause. So where what? Well, where, and this is what sometimes confuses us. So if I do the control space, you can see that I get all the fields in the customer table. So what I want to do here is where the number field is equal, and then I have basically three options. I could do const, and then I could write a customer number. Probably need to write it as a string, but that's one option. But since this is we have the value up here, we actually want to do something else. So instead of const, we want to do field. And now we're talking about the fields that we already have. So now I'm going to say that the calc formula for this field is to do a lookup into the customer table and grab the name field where in a record where number is equal our customer number field. So let me show how that goes. Compile, deploy, and we have the name of the customers. I can click on it and I get to the customer list here. So that that's a pretty nice way if you need, instead of replicating, of course, this one. So the downside of a field like this is that filtering on this is terrible. In some cases you can do it, in other cases you can't. But this is not a filter friendly field. So it's mostly just for showing it. But it's nice if you have type a customer number and then you show the name next to it. So that's kind of the first type of a flow field. So let's do one more, because now we're on a roll. Already off to the second one. We know this is true, but let's create one anyway. Wow. Has invoices. How about that? So this is a Boolean. So now again, the field class needs to be a flow field. So the calc formula in this case is not a lookup. So the next option we have is is exist. So we want to see something. So we could go for, let's go for the posted, what's it called? It's called just known as the sales. Hang on, the sales in, wow. So if you saw that, the newest version of Visual Studio Code 1.49, the intelligent search is broken. So if you use a non-letter, it forgets what you're typing. So normally I can do sales space invoice, and it will search for me, but it doesn't work now. So I can do sales invoice, just ignore the space, sales invoice header. And again, we need to always do the where clause. So in this case, we want to know where let's do the cell to, where the cell to customer number equal our customer number here. So let's just repeat this. Let's see if you guys, is this too small? That's probably better. So calc formula exists if there is a sales invoice header that has the sell to customer number that's equal our customer. Then let's try this out. I'll deploy. And now I did the exact same thing as I did before. I forgot to add the field to the page. I could almost hear you guys yelling at me. So let's try again. Now it's on the page. And it says yes, 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 because those are all demo. But remember that one, that was just my name. So has invoices? No, because nobody invoiced me. So that's a pretty clever way of creating a lookup. It's not really lookup, but if something exists or not. So I use that quite a lot also. But let's keep going. So the next one is the classic one. And that's what is known as an actual sum. So we can do a invoices total. So there has to be a decimal now. And again, field class is FlowField. You know that by heart by now. And the calc formula this time is a sum. And let's sum the customer ledger entries. We'll just do sales. I know I said invoices total, but oh, we can do that. Sales LCY where, and then we add the where clause. So we need to tell that the document type is equal. And this time it should be, you can see that, let me make sure that you guys can see this. So now the IntelliSense is clever enough to figure out that document type is an enum. So I tell that I want to see an invoice. And then because in this case, I need to compare to the two first we created where we only had one field in the where clause. Now we have two fields. So we need to separate them by a comma. So I do a comma. And then I say customer number equal field our customer number here in this table. There we go. And this time I will remember to add it to, wow, my page. So let's run it again. And there you have a total per total invoices per customer, and you can see that I did not have any more invoices. Too bad. So let's just talk about the sum for a second. So what I did here is that I made a total, a sum on customer ledger entries, sales LCY, and I added a filter for document type and customer number. So if we take a look at customer ledger entries, so I do an F12 on that, I get to the source, and then we go down and find the keys. And here, take a look at this. Let me see, make it a tad bigger. Key number 8. So there is a key added, document type, customer number, posting date, currency code. And this key has a sum index field added, meaning that maintaining this key will maintain what is known as a sum index. So this is handled by something called a index view behind the scenes, but in SQL Server. But the short explanation is that Business Central and SQL together will create the information needed to very, very quickly calculate sales LCY, profit LCY, and invoice discount LCY. So no matter how many transactions you'll have, millions, the calculations are instant. So that's a proper sum field, as we flow field using a sum field, proper flow field using a sum field. But we could actually go crazy here, and then let's create something. Closed by amount. That's also a field on the customer ledger entries, and we can do a closed by amount. We can do a quick search and see that that's not in any key. So let's run this. And we get a sum. So BC is clever enough to say, okay, I don't have a sum field on this one, so I'll just stretch my SQL Server's legs and calculate it anyway. And right here on my little demo database, well, everything is instantaneously, but this sum field would now totally bog down the system if you are running it on real data. So make sure that when you do create sums, you hit something that's in the sum field index. Currently, it's not possible. This is one of the shortcomings of the extension model. It's not possible for you to add a sum field on existing fields. So if you need a sum field on an existing field in a table, you cannot do that to a table extension. It's high on the want list. But so let's continue. We had a couple of more. We can also count with this. So again, we can do field class equal FlowFields, it with me. And the count formula this time is a count. And we'll just continue do the customer ledger entries. And this time we don't have to specify a field because we're not counting fields, we just count records. We just need to specify the table just like we did with the exist. And now I'm just gonna copy this one up here because I'm gonna do the exact same filter. So we added the where clause again with the document type and the customer number. And I remember the page because it's not that late in British Columbia yet. Well, it actually is, but that's another story. And I deploy once more. And we can see again, now we have an invoice count. So also a pretty good way to create count fields. So the last one, well, we actually got two, but I'm just going to do one of them because the last type we have, let me add that one also. Oh yeah, okay, let's do more also. So we can also do an average. It's not that common. I've seen it and used it in some solutions, but not that common. So the calc formula is, see, I'm just gonna copy the one from the sum of our invoices up here. And instead of sum, I'm simply going to do average. So now what we're asking is the average of an invoice. And now I broke it because I typed number 5, but that's a good thing I broke because, say it with me, I forgot to add it to the page. So let's quickly add it to the page. Average invoices, application area. Now we are on our way. And a quick calculation says that 335,000 divided by 33 is 10,000 something. That seems correct. So now we got the invoice total, we have the invoice count, and we have the average invoices. So again, all this information is coming out of the sum field index. So it doesn't matter how many there are, the count will be the same. The compute time to do this is the same no matter the size of the data. So the last one I'm gonna do, and then I think we're done for this one, is the maximum. So max invoice amount. Again, this is a decimal, and I'm just gonna copy this one because, hey, copy paste has never broken any code. So in this case, I'm just gonna do max. There is also a minimum, but I guess that if I show you guys how to do a max, you can get the idea about the minimum. So again, give me the max sales LCY from the customer ledger entries, where document type is invoice and customer number is customer number. And I forgot it on the page. So let's add it to the page. Max invoice amount, application area. I suggest you guys do not start a drinking game every time I have to type an application area, because that would be bad for the entire industry. So there we go, deploy it again. And we have a max invoice amount here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 examples of how you can use a flow field, and I encourage you to actually use them. Don't make cheap imitations. This works very, very well. What we didn't get to in this video was that we could add a flow filter to our own table and then specify that in the where clause of the flow field, and thereby creating the same effect as we had on the chart of account, where you can specify a date filter. The date filter is just a flow filter type field on the chart of account table. So we could add in our own filter into the flow field where statement. Anyway, I hope you learned something about flow filters, flow fields and flow filters and sum indexes. If you like videos like this, subscribe to the channel. It helps me a lot. Leave a comment down below and tell me what you are using flow fields for. That would be pretty cool to hear. And then until next time, have a wonderful day.